Hey guys, what's up? My name is Sky Webb and I'm here to talk about a true crime story that I cannot get off my mind. But before I get started, I just want to put out a little disclaimer that I mean no harm to any of the victims or the victims' families, and I wish everyone who's hurt within this story that most peace and solace either in rest or in recovery. With that out of the way, happy True Crime Thursday. Welcome back, or just welcome. I hope you guys like this video enough to give it a like or a comment or subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Last week I did take a week off because I was sick as a dog, but I'm back, and this week we're going to be looking into the infamous Cleveland kidnappings. For once, I'm actually really happy to report that this story has a happy ending. This story ends with all of the victims being found and saved. The Cleveland kidnappings, or the Ariel Castro kidnappings, took place between 2002 and 2004, and they involved the abduction of 3 girls, Michelle Knight, Amanda Berry, and Gina Dejesus. All 3 girls were lured to the home of Ariel Castro, and he was a man who lived in Tremont in Cleveland, Ohio, and he would keep those girls there within his home for over 10 years. 10 fucking years. His first victim was 21-year-old Michelle Knight, and she was a single mother. She was actually undergoing the process of trying to get her son back from Child Protective Services when she was kidnapped. She fell pregnant at 16 years old, and the baby daddy basically just up and left, which left her to completely take care of her son alone. And this eventually led to her mum and her mum's boyfriend babysitting a lot because she had to go out and get a job and, you know, make money to provide for her son. So at some point while being babysat, Michelle's mum's boyfriend grabbed her son and injured him pretty badly, and he was a pretty bad alcoholic, so it's you kind of get the gist that he was drunk when this happened, so it was completely like unintentional to grab him so hard. But because he was injured so badly, it eventually led to the son being taken away from Michelle, even though it wasn't necessarily her fault. So on the 23rd of August 2002, Michelle had an appointment with Child Protective Services to go and try and get her son back. And she tried to find it, but she just was getting lost. She couldn't find this address for whatever reason. She just had no idea where to go, so she was asking people for directions. And Ariel Castro was driving past as she was speaking to people about where to go. So he saw her and he decided he would pull up and have a little chat to her. And Michelle actually knew this man. She knew Ariel Castro because this was her best friend's dad. So this was a man that she knew, she saw on more than one occasion. She trusted him because he literally raised her friend. Like, that's someone you can trust, you know? And so she explained the situation. She was quite obviously lost, and so he said, "Hey, I'll give you a lift. I know exactly where that is." And she gratefully accepted his offer, so they begin driving. And Ariel Castro starts talking about his daughter and how much his daughter loves Michelle Knight and how it's been a minute since they've seen each other and I'm sure she'd love to see you again. And then he comes up with this brilliant idea that he has all these puppies at home and he's selling them or he's giving them away, and he's like,
"Hey, wouldn't your son love a puppy? I can give you one for free. Like, I know you've been such a good friend to my daughter. I'd love to help you out. I'm sure your son would love it."
And Michelle's like, "Yes, I would love that. Here's a puppy that we can raise together. It'll cheer him up. It'll show that I still love him, that I still care about him, and that I'm sorry for everything that's going on. We can raise him together. It'll be an awesome, bonding experience to get a puppy. Yes, I would love a puppy. Please give me a fucking puppy." And so they go back to Castro's house. But once inside Castro's house, Ariel Castro pushes her into the basement and he starts to undress himself. And just like that, his entire persona changes, and it's like a new person is standing in front of Michelle Knight. It's no longer the person that she knows and trusts. It's a guy with his pants down saying,
"You'll never see your son again."
And then he decides to rip up the only photo that Michelle has of her son right in front of her as like a sign of, "I am in control and you will never see him ever again." From there, he tied her to a metal pole in the middle of the basement floor, and he actually put a bike helmet over her head so that she couldn't really hear very well, she couldn't see anything, and she had no idea what time of the day it was, how many hours were going by. Just completely disorientated her. And that's where he kept her for 8 months until he decided to strike again. On the 21st of April 2003, Ariel Castro decided to kidnap again, and this time he kidnapped 16-year-old Amanda Berry. Amanda was walking home from her part-time job at Burger King when Ariel spotted her and decided he would pull over and offer her a lift. Amanda knew this man as well because, again, she knew his daughter. This was a girl that she grew up with, they went to school together, and she basically had the same line of thinking, is like, well, he raised this girl that I know, I've seen her all the time, I've seen him before, he's been at school, like, I know this man, I can trust him, I don't want to walk home, I'll get a lift. She went with him, gratefully, and she even called up her sister to say, hey, I'll be home soon, I got a lift, I'm getting a ride home. When they got in the car, again, he brought up his daughter and said,
hey, you haven't seen her in ages, wouldn't you love to see her?
And she's like, yeah, actually I would. And he was like,
well, she's at my house, come over, you can hang out for a minute and then I'll bring you back to your house, no worries.
So they go back to Castro's house. This time Amanda was chained within a bedroom upstairs, so in a completely different area to where Michelle was. So far away from each other that they actually had no idea that each other was there. They had no clue that there was more than one girl or more than one captive within the house, which is crazy in my opinion. And Amanda was only 16, but this was the day before her 17th birthday. So a really shitty fucking time to go missing, to be honest. Not that any time would be a good time to go missing, but like, I don't know. Gina Dejesus was kidnapped a year later on the 2nd of April 2004. And Gina was only 14 years old. 14. Like, that is so brutal. 14, dude. That's like your whole life like literally your whole life ahead of you. This time Gina was actually walking home from school, but she was hanging out with a friend. She was hanging out with Ariel Castro, Ariel Castro's daughter. They were friends and they were hanging out that afternoon, and they had a great idea that they should have a sleepover. So Gina gave her friend Arlene some money to use the payphone to call her mum and ask for permission. So Arlene calls up her mum and says, hey, can I sleep over at Gina's house? Like, you know, all the things that 14-year-olds do and say to try and get their way. And basically Arlene's mother was just saying, no, you can't, I'm sorry, come home. So basically the last thing Gina said to Arlene was, you owe me money for the payphone because you don't even get to come over. And she was just like shitty about it, like not really shitty, but like, you know what I mean. And so they split ways. Arlene went her way to her house and Gina went the other direction to go back to her house. That's when Castro pulled up beside Gina, and she was just with his daughter, so it didn't seem odd by any stretch of the imagination. Like, they were literally just together. She was just about to sleep over. It's not bizarre to have her dad pull up and be like, hey, you okay? Where's my daughter? Which is exactly what he said. He was like, do you know where Arlene is? And she basically explained what happened and that she had gone the opposite direction. And he was like, oh, okay. He's like, well, actually, I don't mind if you guys have a sleepover. So if you want to like jump in, I'll go pick her up and then we can go back to the house and you guys can hang out. Like, no worries. So she was like, okay, yeah, cool. Which of course she fucking would. That's not weird at all, which is horrible. It stresses me out by how like realistic these scenarios were. Like, no one is going to think twice about that. Of course you're going to get in with your friend's dad so you can have a sleepover. Like, but they went back to Castro's house. They couldn't find Arlene, and so he basically just said, come home, we'll meet her there, then you guys can hang out. Once they got home though, Castro started to touch her. And Gina turned around and was like, what are you doing? She was like, you're gonna go to jail if you keep doing this. And at that point he was like,
all right, you need to get out.
Said she needs to leave. But he told her that she can't leave the house the same way that she came in. She needs to go out a separate door for whatever reason. And so she followed him, went the way that he told her to, and actually it was the basement door. So she ends up in the basement instead of outside. And that's when he trapped her in there and tied her to the poles. So now he has 3 girls tied up in his house. Amanda Berry upstairs in the bedroom, and both Michelle Knight and Gina Dejesus in the basement. But that will later change. And Gina and Amanda got quite a lot of media coverage because obviously Gina Dejesus was 14. That's so young. Of course, people are going to freak out. That's a literal missing child. And even Amanda Berry, she was 16, 17, still a child, and people freaked out. So in part it was because they were children, and in part it was because of their families. Gina Dejesus had a huge family and they all, rallied behind her trying to find her. And Amanda Berry had the same family support where people were wanting to know where the fuck she was. Michelle Knight, on the other hand, didn't have a big family. She didn't have a supportive family necessarily. And she was 21, which means she's an adult, which means no one gave a fuck that an adult went missing. They assumed that she had just run off because she didn't have a son anymore. They didn't assume that like a 21-year-old would go missing, which is really fucking scary because I'm 21 and if I went missing, I need you guys to find me. So like, that's really scary. Michelle Knight was even removed from the NICU, which is like a huge crime database thing so that people can like figure out the crimes and like find where you are and whatever. And she was removed from that because she's an adult. Even though she was stolen, it freaks me out. And Castro made sure she knew about it. He made sure to tell her, no one's looking for you, no one cares about you, you're not on the TV. Look at Amanda Berry, she's on the TV, but you're not on the TV. No one cares about you, your mum doesn't care about you, no one wants to find you. He made sure that she knew, or not knew, because it wasn't even necessarily true to that extent, but he just like pushed that shit on her so hard to try and like fuck her up in the brain, like mind fuck her basically. And that obviously had a huge impact on Michelle, like a huge psychological impact. And she claims, as well as the other girl claims, that Ariel Castro definitely psychologically tormented Michelle far more than any of the other girls. Like, he would just play games with her and be really, really nasty and horrible to her in a way that he just wasn't with the other girls. And she was with Castro for the longest time out of all of the girls. She was in his house for 11 years as a captive. Michelle claims that Castro impregnated her 5 times out of those 11 years, which is crazy. And she claims that every single time that she was impregnated, he would terminate the pregnancy himself using force, using all kinds of things like dumbbells and weights and just beating it out of her basically. And Michelle's written a fair bit about these pregnancies and terminations throughout her book, which you should definitely go read, but it's very heavy, so like be aware of that. But I suppose if you're watching this, you probably don't care, so go read it. And she goes through like the nitty gritty details. She even claims at one time he put the terminated baby like in her hands and said like, look at this, look at what you've done, this is your fault. If you had just listened to me, if you had done what I said, I wouldn't have had to do this, you made me do this. He would say like, don't you wish it was alive, don't you wish it was different, it's all your fault. And it's suspected that Castro's abuse, like physical and sexual abuse to Michelle and all of these pregnancies, and that is the reason why she can't have children to this day, which is just one of the many, many lasting effects that this whole thing has had on her, and it's just horrible. Michelle was definitely like a feisty girl. She definitely gave him hell compared to the other 2 girls, and that's sort of why it's suspected that he like lashed out so much worse for Michelle than the other girls, because it was his inability to control her the way that he controlled the others. Like, you tell a 14-year-old what to do, chances are they're gonna do it. You tell Michelle what to do and she's gonna yell at you, she's gonna swear at you, she's gonna play games with you, she's gonna tell you you're fucking worthless. Like, and these are the things that she did. And I love her for that, because if you said it to me, I'd probably be like, okay, yes sir, don't hurt me. But she didn't, and she copped so much like abuse because of it, and yet I love her for that. It just was really hard on her. He would beat her more, he would starve her, he would play games with her brain, like he would just mess with her in a way that he didn't with anyone else. He would punish her more, he would even rape her more. It's said that he raped her up to 7 times per day, which is just disgusting. 7 times per day when you're there for 11 years. No fucking wonder she can't have kids. Like, that is so fucking brutal. All 3 girls were raped fairly frequently over the time that they were there. The other girls claim it could potentially have been up to 5 times a day, which isn't much better. Like, that's still really horrible. But despite the odds, Amanda Berry was still brutally fucking shocked when she missed her period. And then she started getting morning sickness, and then she fucking panicked because she was pregnant. And she didn't think Castro would want a baby in the house. Like, first of all, how are you gonna explain a baby? Where are you gonna put the baby? He's not gonna wanna deal with like the crying and the yelling and the this and the that, and it's expensive. And literally, if someone comes over and hears a baby crying, what do you like? How do you explain that one? But for whatever reason, when he realized, he allowed her to keep the baby. And then when Amanda went into labor, he was like,
"Hey, your water just broke. Here's a kiddie pool. Give birth in that because I don't want to mess. And I'm gonna just sit in my rocking chair over here and watch."
And that's what he did. He told Michelle to get in there and basically deliver the baby. Oh, and by the way, if the baby dies,
I'll kill you.
no pressure. No pressure at all. The birth was super traumatic for both Amanda and Michelle. And when the baby came out, it wasn't breathing. So Michelle had to save its life in order to save her life. And it was just like a horrible, horrible experience for both of them, especially when their kidnapper's sitting in a fucking rocking chair and watching them. But from that point on, that baby basically saved Amanda's life. She called her baby Jocelyn, and Jocelyn meant the world to Amanda Berry. She gave her hope, and she gave her a reason to keep pushing, a reason to be strong, a reason to live. And from that point on, Jocelyn was Amanda's whole entire world. And as she got older, she would start to decorate the room as like a school. She'd put up posters and ABCs and numbers and times tables, and she would set up a little corner where she would basically take her to school. So every single morning they'd wake up and she'd like get her ready for school, and she'd give her a kiss and she'd say, "All right, we're gonna walk you to school." This is all in one room, by the way. So she'd like walk around the room, pretend to be at like traffic lights and say, "All right, now look left, look right, make sure there's no cars coming, cross the road. All right, now we're at school, give mommy a kiss, goodbye." They'd hug goodbye. She'd walk into the school, and then Amanda would like walk around the room and be like, "All right, hi, now I'm your teacher." And that was their life. Like, that was their everyday life. Amanda did everything for that girl. And Jocelyn had a lot more freedom within the house than what the captives did, because like it was Castro's daughter as well, so he sort of just let her like roam around the house. So she was allowed to go downstairs as long as he was home. So on the 6th of May 2013, a long time since they were kidnapped, Jocelyn went downstairs like she always did because Castro left the door open, so that meant he was home. But she went downstairs and looked for Castro, and Castro was nowhere to be seen. So she came upstairs and said to Amanda, she was like, "Mummy, where's Dad? Where's Castro? He's not home." And she was like, "Oh, just go look for his blue car. If his blue car's there, it means he's home. He's around, he's somewhere, he might be in the garage. Go check the garage." So Jocelyn goes downstairs and she checks the garage, and he's not in the garage. So she checks for the blue car. The blue car's not there, so she comes upstairs and says, "No, his blue car's not here. He's not here, Mum." So at this point, Amanda's like, where is he then? She wanted to go downstairs, like badly at this point. But the problem was, Castro had basically conditioned all 3 girls never to go downstairs, regardless of if the doors are open or regardless of if they think like he's not here. Because he used to trick them. He would leave doors open on purpose and then like stand outside the door, wait for them to go through, and then beat the living shit out of them to condition them to never check. So at this point, Amanda's like, do I go? Do I not? Is it a trick? Is he gonna like beat me for checking? Like, what do I do? It was a really hard decision for her. But something in Amanda Berry that day forced her, told her, no, you need to go and check. So she did. She went downstairs, and Castro was nowhere to be seen. He wasn't home. He had left the door open by accident. So she starts trying to escape. She starts banging on the doors. It had a big latch on it. Like, there was no way to get out. The doors were locked. There was bars on the windows. He had actually screwed like other doors on top of the windows, screwed them into the walls, and then like shaved the rest of the nails so that there was no way to get him out. So there was no way out of this house except for the front door, and that was the one that had the lock. So she's banging on the door, she's yelling, she's screaming, she's kicking it, And then, thank you God, by the grace of God, there was a neighbor who was sitting on the front porch when she was doing this, and they were like, what the fuck is that? So they come over and they see her through the like fly screen thing, I believe, and they're like, what the fuck are you doing, bitch? Like, just open the door. She's like, I can't get out, I'm kidnapped, get me the fuck out. So him and another man by that point come to the door, and they're kicking the bottom of the door and like banging this fucking door open so that she can escape. And finally she can fit through this little hole that they've created in the bottom of the door, and she squeezes out this hole, and then she brings Jocelyn out of this hole. She runs to the neighbor's house, she picks up the phone and she calls 911.
Leave a 911. You need...
Hello, please. Help me, I'm Amanda Berry.
You need police, fire, or ambulance.
I need police.
Okay, and what's going on there?
I've been kidnapped and I've been missing for 10 years, and I'm here. I'm free now.
Okay, and what's your address?
2207 Seymour Avenue.
2207 Seymour. It looks like you're calling me from 2210. Looks like you're calling me from 2210.
I can't hear you.
It looks like you were calling me from 2210 Seymour.
Yeah, I'm across the street. I'm using the phone.
Okay, stay there with those neighbors. Talk to the police when they get there.
Okay.
Okay, talk to the police when they get there.
Okay. Hello?
Yeah, talk to the police when they get there.
Okay, I'm on the way right now.
We're going to send them as soon as we get a car open.
No, I need them now before we get back.
All right, we're sending them, okay?
Okay, I mean, like,
Who's the guy you're, who's the guy who went out?
His name is Ariel Castro.
All right, how old is he?
He's like 52.
All right, and
Steven, I'm Amanda Berry. I've been on the news for the last 10 years.
Okay, I got that here. I already. And you said, what was his name again?
Ariel Castro.
And is he white, black, or Hispanic?
He's Hispanic.
And what's he wearing?
I don't know, because he's not here right now. That's
when
why
he
I got
left,
away.
when he left, what was he wearing?
Sweetheart, it's a pity. What?
Right, the police are on the way. Talk to them when they get there. Okay? I told you they're on the way. Talk to them when they get there, okay?
All right, okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
It doesn't take long before the police completely swarm the house. They swarm the whole street. They get all the girls out. Everybody's in shock. Like, it's not very often you find a missing person after 10 years. People are freaking out. Amanda Berry was devastated to find out that her mum had actually passed away a couple of years previous. Her mother succumbed to her illness not long after a very public announcement by a psychic told her mum that your daughter's dead. Like, she had died, there's no point looking for her anymore. And basically people believe that it was that like news and that information that caused her mum to just like stop fighting the illness and give up, because if you accept that your child's gone, like maybe she accepted it was time for her to go as well. So people were really devastated that that psychic had potentially like done that to her, when clearly Amanda was alive and that psychic was full of fucking shit. Don't believe psychics. But the first thing that Amanda requested was a tombstone for her mum and a proper funeral, because like she hadn't gotten that. No one had the money for that at the time. They were putting all their money into finding Amanda, and that's what she wanted, a tombstone for her mum and a proper funeral, as well as a birth certificate for Jocelyn, for her daughter. Michelle Knight reunited with her family, but she decided that she wouldn't reestablish like custody of her son, because at this point he had grown up a fair bit. Like he was with a whole new family, with an adopted family, and as far as she could tell, he was happy, he was healthy, he was in a good home, and she didn't want to just come in and like bombard that and take him back and, you know, ruin his whole like stable life. And so she decided to leave him with his foster parents until he turns 18, at which point she would love to meet him, which I'm so like excited for her for that. And Gina returned home to a huge welcome party with all of her family, and there was a lot of press there. And as soon as she got out of the car, she was like sort of hidden in a little hoodie, but she put her thumb up like this for everybody to know she was okay, and the crowd just like erupted into cheers, and everyone was so happy that she was home, and it was so wholesome. Ariel Castro was immediately arrested, and he was set for an $8 million bond, which nobody paid. He was then charged with 512 counts of kidnapping, 446 counts of rape, 7 counts of gross sexual imposition, 6 counts of felonious assault, 3 counts of child endangerment, 2 counts of aggravated murder for the loss of life of Michelle Knight's children, or babies, and 1 count of possession of criminal tools. So that's a lot of fucking counts. He pleaded non-guilty to all counts, which is, it's not funny, but it's funny because it's like, are you fucking serious? Like, how are you gonna plead non-guilty to that many counts when there's like so much proof against you? Like, they were in your house. Like, are you crazy? The fucking pig had the audacity to claim in court, in front of everyone, in front of the victims' families, in front of, I believe Michelle was the only one in court. He had the audacity to claim that the only sex he had with those women was consensual. It wasn't rape because they wanted it. He said that majority of the time that they had sex, it was them coming to him because they wanted sex. But in the same like fucking speech that he gave, he also claimed that he's not a bad person and he's not a monster because he just has like problems. He has an addiction to sex, and so it's not his fault and he deserves sympathy. But like, if he has an addiction to sex, then how does it make sense that they were the ones coming to you for sex, you little fuck? If that doesn't make your fucking blood sizzle, I don't know what the fuck will. Like, that makes me so mad. It's not even funny. He was sentenced to consecutive life sentences plus 1,000 years. So basically just lock him in prison and throw away the fucking key because he's never getting out. 1 month into his life sentence though, he was found dead in his cell. He was found hung by his own accord. So basically what I get out of that is that he can steal 11 years of these girls' lives, 11 fucking years, and have them in the most horrible scenarios. He can starve them, rape them, beat them, and torment them. He can make them piss and shit in the same area. He can stop them from showering for months on end. He can let bugs eat their skin because they're so fucking dirty that the bugs are like, oh, that's fucking tasty, and eat the fucking skin. Like, he can give them rashes, he can not give them medical attention, he can just let them live like fucking pigs. Worse than fucking pigs, because pigs are happy to roll around in the mud and they're like, they're chilling, pigs are good. He had them living like fucking rats in a fucking sewer. He can disorientate them by putting helmets on their heads. Don't know the time, don't know how many days are going past, don't know whether it's day or night, and never even see the fucking sun, never even see the outdoors. Like, literally just completely fuck with them for 11 years. But he can't go 1 month in a clean cell with a bed, with clean clothes, with access to medical attention if he needs it, 3 meals a day, social interaction, fucking access to commissary where you can get tastier foods. They get showers, yard time, friends. He can't last a month doing that, but he can take 11 years. Oh, that makes me so mad, God. It makes me sick. He's a cunt. Like, he's a fucking cunt. But anyway, he's dead. He's gone. Since their time in Ariel Castro's house, both Gina and Amanda have written a memoir together, which is awesome. Go support them. Like, go buy their books, please. Amanda has worked with Fox News to help spread missing persons information, which is super helpful to try and find these people and get the word out there, which is exactly what people were doing for her, and she appreciated that so much. It actually gave her hope to watch all of these people spreading her information while she was held captive, and she loves to do that for other people. She's also maintained being an excellent, crazy, awesome mother to Jocelyn, who, by the way, was reading at an above average level when she joined a real school after being captive for what, 6 years? Like, that's incredible that Amanda was able to teach her that well. Gina's opened up a center on the same street that Castro's house was, so the same street she was held captive, as basically like a fuck you, like look at me now, look how far I've come. And that center's designed to help people in the same sort of situations that she was in previously, which is just awesome. And she's also worked really, really closely with the same people who basically put out Amber Alerts, and that's just fantastic. Like, Amber Alerts in a lot of cases save lives, so I'm really proud of her. Like, not proud of her, like I have nothing to do with her, but I'm just really happy that she did that. She's basically made it her mission in life to help save people that are in the same situation that she was in. Michelle is now happily married to a man named Miguel, and they had a beautiful wedding, and she's just over the moon that she's found love. She's also a motivational speaker. She's spoken at domestic violence seminars and sex trafficking seminars, which is something she works really hard to like promote. She's also the founder of Lily Rays of Hope, which is a non-for-profit organization designed to help people with sex trafficking and help people in domestic violence relationships, as well as child abuse, which is something she did experience herself. So I think that's a fantastic organization. Definitely go check that out if you have the time. She's also released 2 books, one about the time she spent in Castro's house, which is super fucking heavy. And she's also written one about life after escaping, which is crazy. Like, she's just full of so much hope. All 3 girls are just like crazy full of hope. All 3 of them have just done wondrous things for the community since they escaped, which is just like fantastic. You could not have picked a better like 3 people to put that hope out into the world. That is the story of the Cleveland kidnappings. I really hope you enjoyed this one. I hope you can get something out of this story because I think it's so fucking inspirational what they've done. Let me know what you think about this story in the comments down below. I'd love to hear what you think about Castro actually using his own daughters to help get these girls, which by the way, his daughters have completely disowned him. What do you think about Castro in general, and what do you think about his death? Because I'd love to hear your opinion on that one. Let me know in the comments down below, or you can head over to my Facebook, which is skyweb with 3 B's, and let me know there. I'd love to hear your opinions. Be sure to give this video a big thumbs up if you feel like it. I would really appreciate it. And be sure to subscribe so that you can see all my new videos I post every single Thursday, all about true crime, and I'd love to have you be a part of it. Make sure you guys are being safe out there. Don't steal girls. Be careful who you get into cars with. And I'ma just leave it at that because this ain't the time for jokes when I'm this angry. Thank you for watching. Bye.